Hello. In this video, I'll talk about one of my term papers written during my master's. So I took this course on understanding by Heidegger and Gadamer, and we discussed understanding and interpretation and their Heidegger and Gadamer's views on these two concepts. So it was very interesting course, and we basically read these two important works by Heidegger and Gadamer. Heidegger's Being and Time, and Gadamer Truth and Method. And we discuss the important concepts like interpretation, understanding, knowledge, what Heidegger and Gadamer meant by this. So I wrote my term paper on the question uh, whether uh, texts have one understanding or one interpretation, uh, and explored this question philosophically. And in this paper, I argued for the conclusion that uh, a text has does not have one single meaning or understanding or interpretation, but it has multiple interpretation, understanding, and meaning. That was my thesis for this paper, which for which I got support from both Heidegger and Gadamer, and I basically contrasted my thesis or position by another literary critic or philosopher, author, E.D. Hirsch. E.D. Hirsch, he argues that contrary to Gadamer and Heidegger, that texts have one single meaning, one single interpretation or understanding, and that is authorial intent. What author had intended while writing the text. So, for example, if we take example of some text, let's um, say Hamlet written by Shakespeare. So E.D. Hirsch would say that uh, what Hamlet means, or what the meanings of the statements contained in this text, um, Hamlet, is what Shakespeare had intended, or what's uh, however, Gadamer and Heidegger argue argue against such positions. They say that you can. It depends, kind of. So the meaning does not only depend on what author had intended, but multiple things, and also the meaning changes on depending on many other factors like who is reading, what is the time in which it is being read, and the context, and also in what context it was written. So multiple factors. uh, it depends, the meaning, interpretation, understanding depends on multiple factors as compared to just one thing, that what the author has intended. So if we take this example of Hamlet, I mean, I also think that this seems a bit implausible, or not rational, or to say that every time we read Hamlet, we are after, if we are after, or let's say, if we want to know the real meaning of Hamlet, then you should know what Shakespeare had intended. It seem implausible? How would we have access to his intentions, Shakespeare's intentions? and he wrote in very different contexts, time, with um, different aims. But if I read it now, I would obviously interpret those words, those stories in today's context probably. I mean, literature allow this possibility, isn't it? Novels, movies, art has this nature where they allow the audience, the readers, to interpret in their own way, in their own time, in their own context. So, Harsh position seem implausible, and what Heidegger and Gadamer aim or uh, claims seem more plausible to me. And they also um, go a bit deep in suggesting that author or in suggesting that a text might have multiple meaning and interpretations, uh, because they they suggest that uh, even when I, let's say, use read Hamlet and read a sentence from it, uh, and this, if the concepts like flower or, let's say, relationship or whatever is used in this book, then uh, it the meaning the meaning I would arrive to depends on how I use these concepts, relationships or flower or whatever, and other person, and this depends on my historical background and many other my psychological uh, makeup. So it's just vast. The possibility of interpretations and meaning and understanding of a text is vast. I mean, even within a same historical context, historical political context, different people would interpret a text differently. I find this position very democratic as compared to Hirschman. Um, um, but at the same time, I understand that Hirsch would have arguments to support his thesis, though it seems a bit too difficult position to hold. And at some point, I would like to go deep into or read carefully the arguments Hirsch provided. But for this paper, I um, I just focused on one of the arguments provided by Hirsch, that authorial intent is like arguments associated with this point of uh, authorial intent. So I focused on that to criticize or to provide contrast, some contrast with the position that text has multiple meanings, understanding, and interpretation. So this was enough for a short paper, but I'm interested in reading Harsh's more arguments uh, for his belief that why he thinks a text has one meaning. This sounds very interesting to me. Um, at some point, I would read and think about them.